we could not plant churches in the United Methodist Church without our connectional heritage taken into consideration. That's where our resources come from apportionments. The fact that we pay apportionments now, we pay 100% apportionments. Part of that money is going to help start new faith communities in some fashion. The same is true for other churches in our conference. The money that people give in an offering, and part of that goes back to the church. That's how we start new churches. That's how we start new ministries. The other piece to the connectional equation is the support that comes with that on both the district and the conference level, but also there are all kinds of resources that we gain in the church as a whole, whether it's programming that can help be beneficial in training, whether it's patterns of leadership that can be implemented at a church plant in creative ways. How you're setting up your leadership, whether it's an administrative council, and what all that looks like as the church is emerging, because it doesn't happen right out of the gate, and so you have to be able to move into that.
I think the connectional nature gives you so many opportunities and resources as well. Another resource that we have been able to employ here is the use of grant money. So through United Methodist networks, we've had the opportunity to apply and receive several grants from some foundations and organizations that are particularly interested in new faith communities and new ways of doing church, using modern technology as a means to reach the disconnected in communities today. So one, just having those connections to different grants and funding resources is a great way that we use our connection. The other way is that we have a list of people within our denomination that have done this and have done it well, and so they're very willing to share their experience and their stories to help us in our context and in our pursuit of this new ministry. And we hope to continue that connectional heritage by, again, providing for others that come along after us, and we can then share our story and our experience and any resources that may be helpful for those that come along after us.
To me, a connectional system is probably the right kind of system for church planting, rather than the independent kind of systems where, churches that are planting churches, like the Southern Baptist Church, for example, they plant more churches than any other denominational group. Now they have more failures as well. So they'll plant 1,000 church plants knowing that 100 of them will survive. So they just shotgun scatter these things all over the place. But they don't have the connectionalism that we have, which should build in support and, with the district superintendent and various teams and persons like me in this office. So I think connectionalism at its best lends itself to this kind of activity. But we've got we have a lot of challenges right now as a denomination to figure out. There really is kind of a competitiveness among our clergy that makes church planting difficult. When you're planting a church, sometimes you are perceived as leapfrogging over other people or making your own appointment by saying, hey, I feel called to plant a church here, and if the conference allows you to do that. One of the things that you hear from other clergy sometimes is, well, I didn't get a chance to determine where I wanted to go. I had to wait until district superintendent approached me. And so the very system that should be most supportive of church planting sometimes can get in the way of it.
If I can have any kind of mark on greater Methodism, it would be to help us learn to love one another and support one another through endeavors like this. And I've been able, through the D-Men program that I'm in, to meet pastors from different annual conferences and stuff. And I really love the direction that our annual conference is moving in now, especially with our network, because if we will work together, we're so much stronger together than we are apart. And it's okay to be different. It's okay to recognize those differences. So if we were to have a vision of a need for a new faith community, and you actually get the surrounding faith communities or churches to buy into that vision and commit to supporting it in one way or another, and it's not competition, what if we're not judged by our numbers, but what if we are evaluated by how we raise up people and help others be successful not just ourselves.
Coming out of General Conference 2008, there were 7 vision pathways. And the first one that was articulated was new places for new people. And so the founders of Path 1 kind of grabbed that and said, oh, we're the first path, so we're going to be Path 1. That's how the name came about. As the executive director, I had a team of 11 people. They're back here on this poster here. It was one of the gifts they gave me of my team. And our role really primarily was to coach and consult with judicatory leaders, annual conferences around the Connection, to help them think more systematically about how to plant more healthy churches. As an organization, we couldn't plant churches, but we could affect those who did, because that resides in the work of the district superintendent. So we worked in every annual conference in the Connection over a 4-year period of time. And as a result of our field staff, we were all church planters or had church planting background experience. We had best practice knowledge. We all received training in terms of coaching and consulting and facilitation skills, and just went everywhere we could. And as a result of that, in 4 years, the United Methodist Church planted well over 700 new churches. Almost half of them were non-Anglo United Methodist churches, which was, our goal was half to be non-Anglo churches. So we succeeded in that. Yeah. Something that we piloted too was called the Lay Missionary Planting Network, which was how do we train lay people to plant churches? How do we wrestle this away from it being purely a clergy-centric kind of ministry to meet somebody who has a calling to plant a church, and they're willing to be bivocational, which is a very inexpensive way to plant churches, and to plant new communities of faith in appropriate culturally contextual areas where an elder wouldn't be appropriate or necessary. And so a fair number of those 700 churches were planted by lay folks. Some of them were in prisons, trailer parks, in neighborhoods of extreme poverty where you couldn't have supported an elder. And so I think the strides that were gained and are being gained by Path 1 is you got a team of people who are staying on the razor's edge of how to do this well, and teaching and training others how to do that at the cabinet or council of bishops level, annual conference cabinets, district superintendents, and all kinds of things within our Connection.
And I was fortunate enough with Bishop Goodpasture over the last couple of years to begin chewing on a concept called the Syndeo movement. Syndeo is a Greek word for connect. And so what I proposed the conference, and we soft launched this last annual conference, was that we would take 5 new churches at different points on their life cycle, and we would partner them together in cohorts to begin to celebrate the connectional church and allow these pastors to collaborate with one another and share resources, share ideas, begin making decisions together, learning from each other's own context. And then if you have a church planter that was interested in or feeling called to plant a church, you could appoint them to the cohort. And then that planter that future planter could participate in the life cycle of churches that are at different points in their growth cycle. And it would give that person a tremendous amount of experience. The other thing about celebrating our connection by connecting young church plants or young churches is that you can help one another avoid the potholes that maybe you've gone through. And so this becomes a more efficient and effective way to plant churches, to share resources, to lean into our connectional heritage in ways that we never have before.
One of the things that we did, because Light of Christ helped us, and so that's been so helpful to us, it saved us thousands and thousands of dollars. Well, I want to make sure that we pay it forward too. And we have no intentions of having a facility anytime soon. And so I want us to be intentional about connecting with other people. So Scott Osterberg, who has launched a new faith community out of a mother church relationship in Winston-Salem, and it ended up becoming a missional church quicker than they thought. And you know what? Their worshiping congregation is, I don't know, a huge percentage, like 70%, either homeless or recovering from substance abuse. And he has a great, significant amount of people worshiping there. They're not millionaires. I mean, many of them are homeless. Well, we are here in Lake Norman, in a suburb, and we're not a rich church. We really have demographics from all over. We have some folks that have gone through their own place of homelessness in ministry, or not ministry, but while they've been a part of the church. But we also have some folks that are wealthy, and we have people that are generous. And so for the first 3 years, you don't have an apportionment payment. And so instead of not budgeting for an apportionment payment, and just keeping that money for ourselves while we can until we have to give it, knowing that that's going to be a line in our budget that we have to incur, we have written it in incremental stages for the next 3 years. And so what we do is that's a part of our missional budget, and we're giving it to New Story. And so next year, I hope we'll give it to New Story and another New Faith community. And then the third year, I'd like to see us give it to 3 New Faith communities. And they know, Scott knows that we'll do this in a graduated period of time. And then at the end, it's our apportionment monies. Then the church is not surprised, but also we're being connectional. And I think it's hard to have enough funding for new church starts. So I think if we would do some kind of system like that and have every new church do that, then it educates our people about apportionments, and it also fosters a relationship and community, because I want Scott to do well there, and I want that church to grow. If it outgrows West, yay. It's not about me. It's not about that. I want Alan up in, Asheville to do well. So I'm praying for him. And we gave him things we didn't use because people did that for us. And that's what Jesus did. So I think there are so many benefits to the connectional system if we would use them and get over. Maybe my numbers might not look as good as yours. If we would start building each other up instead of tearing each other down, then maybe we might look like the kingdom.
We have plans in the future to help and be a resource center and a teaching center for other smaller congregation United Methodist churches, particularly in the Charlotte Metro District and beyond. But we have somebody right now who's acting as a resource coordinator that is developing tracks for our different areas of ministries. So whether it's children's or hospitalities or small groups, they're developing tracks where somebody from a smaller church that says we want to tweak, or we want to change, or we want to start a new children's ministry, or we want to start a new small group ministry, they'd have the opportunity to come alongside with us for 3 months or 6 months or whatever it ends up being, and they would actually serve alongside us. They would shadow our leaders and our coaches, and they would be trained specifically in that one track of ministry. And then they'd also learn some general things as far as implementing change within particular contexts, and some other just general ideas that are helpful in revitalizing and starting new ministries. So then after their time with us, they would actually develop a plan to go back to their home church and implement this new ministry there in their own context.
I think the sense of movement within United Methodism is most keenly experienced in church planting than in revitalization. And I work at revitalizing churches too, and it's important that we do that. But the real sense of movement in Methodism right now, in terms of being on the front line, evangelistically and in terms of community development and mission outreach, is really through new church starts. The ability to reach new people, younger people, more diverse people for the kingdom is going to come really through new church starts, more than it will come from our existing congregations. And I think that within United Methodism, that really is our greatest form of evangelism right now.